Hello, I'm Lori Steiner, sitting in for Armin Budish. Welcome to Golden Opportunities.
Today, it's not too early to get a jump on this year's tax tips. We have them ready for you. Ready for another serving of sensational sports stories? Dan Coughlin is here to dish them out. Plus, how to tell if it's time for in-home help. And don't take insurance denial lying down.
It's time to get GOing, so pull up a chair and join us at our kitchen table for Golden Opportunities. Receipts, W-2s, 1099s, year-end statements. Paperwork is paramount when planning to file your tax return. Jim Lineweaver is here to stack up tips to help tax time be less taxing. Jim is a certified financial planner with the Lineweaver Financial Group. All right, wow, this is a big problem for a lot of people here. And you're going to have tips for do-it-yourselfers and for professionals, right?
We are, yes. So whether you take your tax return and do it yourself, or you got to get everything ready, like this pile of paper,
yeah, this
and
doesn't
get it
look
ready.
good.
It doesn't. It's a big headache for a lot of people every year, and what you have to prepare for your tax preparer.
Okay, so what documents are we actually talking about?
Well, first let's just look at your income. You know, if you had a W-2, if you did any side jobs like a 1099, if you had disability income, if you had Social Security, if you had pension payments, disability payments, any of that, what happens is either keep your year-end stub, or better yet, get your W-2 and 1099 forms that physically come, you know, from the employer. Because those are extremely important, and you're going to have to file a copy of those with your tax return.
Okay, how about your investment income? You have to gather that, right?
You do, and people always think of the golden rule of January 31st. Well, that's been extended on a lot of things, so be careful. So if you're trying to file early, some of your brokerage statements won't come till February 15th now. If you have any limited partnerships or anything like that, it's not going to come till possibly the middle or end of March. So if you're used to filing early, not going to happen. But anything along that nature, dividends from your bank or interest from your bank, all that kind of stuff also has to be gathered for taxes.
Okay, is this something you have to look for, or do these just come to you?
These should automatically be sent to you, but I wouldn't just wait, you know, I'd kind of almost have a little checklist to make sure that nothing
You've got
is
everything.
missing. Yes, exactly, because I can't tell you how many times people are going to have to do amended returns, or it's caught 2 or 3 years later because they missed one document. It's not your tax preparer's fault. They didn't have it, they didn't know.
Right.
So if you have a little checklist, much better, put them in an envelope, and then when you get them all, do it yourself or give it to the accountant.
Okay, so we talked about the income. How about deductions?
Yeah, these are extremely important, because the more you can deduct, the less you have to pay in taxes.
Well,
So
very good
don't want to pay
thing.
any more than we absolutely have to.
That's right.
Yeah, so anything is like your mortgage interest statement, or any charitable contributions you made, and over to like $250, what they do is they want actual documentation and proof of that. Tuition payments, student loan payments, education expenses, anything you're doing for job hunting, keep track of the mileage and everything, and also unreimbursed business expenses. Sometimes, even though your business would not reimburse that for you, sometimes you can actually get a reimbursement on your tax return and get money back from the government. It's very important.
Okay, well, it's a lot of paperwork, obviously. When we've got piles of papers here, this is kind of like what everyone's dining room table, it looks like, probably. Any tips on how to tackle these taxes now that you've compiled your pounds and pounds of paper?
Yeah. Well, don't just throw them on the floor and get rid of them, okay? that's not a good way to handle things.
Okay.
Okay, so you can get those accordion folders, whatever you want to do. But the better you can be organized, especially if you're handing it off to somebody else. A lot of times accountants and stuff will charge you by the hour. We don't at our firm, but some accountants do.
Should be organized going in.
Yeah, and the more you can tell them, the better, and get them well informed so that they spend less time on your return and therefore maybe charge you less money for your taxes and everything.
Okay, and if you're going to take your tax return to a preparer, how do you know if they're a good one or a bad one?
Well, I would see a CPA. I probably wouldn't go to a bookkeeper. I wouldn't go to just a tax preparer. And if they're in your audience, I'm not trying to offend them or anything, but probably for people that may not have a very sophisticated return, or let's say they don't have rental properties, or they don't have some of these other investments like K1s and stuff, it's probably okay. But the more sophisticated or complex, I should say, your return, and maybe other things that you own, properties and things, you're probably better to kind kind of go up a notch and try to go to a CPA. And that's why in our firm we have a CPA that can do clients' taxes or your viewers' taxes if they like, because we want to make sure the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and we don't want the IRS knocking on the door.
We want to make sure we get every deduction
Yeah,
we're
positive.
entitled
Yes,
to.
yes.
Yeah. So, good tips, always, as always. So, remember, the trick to taxes is preparing all of your paperwork. Follow Jim's advice and start putting things in place pronto. And if you need help, give Jim a call. His number's next.
Find out more by calling the Lineweaver Financial Group at 1-888-313-4009 or click to www.lineweaver.net. But first, this Liverpool lad earns his living not only from his own tuneful repertoire, he also pads his pockets with the publishing rights to other famous soundtracks. The songs from Grease, Mame, and A Chorus Line are money and music to whose ears? We'll help you out with the answer when we return.
Welcome to Breckenridge Village, a continuing care retirement community conveniently located in historic Willoughby, Ohio. Whether it's a luxury apartment, a spacious ranch home, or newly built brownstones, it's all here with the added security of knowing more care is available when you need it. Breckenridge Village offers an exciting and upbeat lifestyle, and the food is fabulous, and our staff makes you their #1 priority. Learn more about Breckenridge Village and come see our new Veal Wellness and Aquatic Center.
Let it be said that 1/4 of the Fab Four, Sir Paul McCartney, who also composed some of his wealth with the words and music of others. His publishing rights to tunes like Stormy Weather and Hello Dolly help ensure his financial Beatle go on.
Once a stroke occurs and the immediate care has been given, what happens next? What's involved for your loved one and for you and your family? Dr. Patrick Schmitz here to walk us through the road to recovery. Dr. Schmitz, the medical director of the Cleveland Clinic Rehabilitation Hospital at Euclid Hospital. Thanks for joining us again, Doctor.
You're welcome.
We had you on a few weeks ago. You talked about what stroke is and the importance of timing, getting something done quickly. But once that's done, once our loved one's in the hospital, what's the next step?
Okay, that's also a very important question, and there's some confusion revolving around that. I think if you're a family of a loved one who's had a stroke, there are a couple of key things that you should ask. One is, are you going to a inpatient rehab hospital that provides a team approach? And that would include folks like myself that are board certified in physical medicine and rehab or in stroke rehab, a neurologist, for example.
There's a specialty in stroke rehab.
Well, there's a specialty in physical medicine and rehabilitation, and within that specialty, as well as within the specialty of neurology, there are stroke specialists.
Gotcha.
Some of those folks practice in rehab hospitals like myself.
Gotcha.
The Cleveland Clinic, for example, has 3 of those hospitals: Lakewood, Main Hospital, and Euclid. Euclid's the biggest one, and we've done stroke rehab there for 40 years. So in any event, the important things to ask: do you have the right medical personnel there? Do you have stroke specialists? Is there physician care 24 hours a day? So, Euclid Rehab, for example, is attached to the main hospital, so we have physician care there 24 hours a day. The other important issues are the team. Who's on that team? Physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, recreational therapy, art therapy, music therapy, the physician,
I'm getting
social
tired just
worker,
listening to all these different kinds of therapies.
psychologist, also very important. Not only for the patient, but for the family. We often bring the families in and they go through the program in some sense as well.
Sounds like a huge commitment for the patient, things that they have to do, and also for the family.
It is. It is a big commitment. It's a big event when someone has a significant stroke. So we often need the families there. We ask them to come in and go to therapy.
Really?
We want them to see what's going on. We want them to know how things are going and what the picture's going to look like when their loved one goes home.
You had mentioned this team approach, and it sounds wonderful to have all these different specialists that can help work with someone. Tell us more about what each member of the team does.
Okay, sure. Well, there's the rehab doc, the rehab specialist. The psychologist often helps with the patients with depression. Depression's very common after stroke, and also with the family adjustment. We have speech therapy that works with swallowing and language, cognition, memory issues. We have physical therapy that works with your ability to get up, move around safely. Occupational therapy works with the things you do every day, getting dressed, doing things you need to do in the bathroom, all those important things that no one thinks about.
Do these team members work together?
They do. They work together, and sort of the interesting thing about an inpatient rehab unit is that each team member has an equal voice. So when we have a meeting, you know, each person around that table has a definite voice into what's happening with that patient's care.
You actually get all these folks together in one room?
We do, twice a week.
Twice a week?
We see each other every day, but we get together in a formal fashion twice per week.
Wow. And tell us about the results. How does this end up?
Well, if you think about it, one word to me, or one phrase, would be getting the person home, back to the community.
That's the
So
goal.
The inpatient stroke rehab hospitals do a good job with that. About 75% of their patients, they're able to get back to the community, back home. So that's
And you mentioned Cleveland Clinic, Maine.
right. Lakewood and Euclid.
And Euclid's the biggest.
It is.
All right.
It
Thank you
is.
very much,
You're welcome.
Doctor.
You're welcome.
Rehabilitation from a stroke takes hard work from the patient, the family, and a team, a medical team. But as Dr. Schmidt points out, the hard work pays off. My thanks to Dr. Schmidt for joining us today.
To find out more, contact the Cleveland Clinic Rehabilitation Hospital at Euclid Hospital, 216-692-8668, or www.clevelandclinic.org. Next, Pass the Nuts. Looking for places to go, things to do? Welcome to our community calendar. Laura Ingalls Wilder is making a Little House in the Library, Thursday, February 2nd from 7 to 8:30 p.m. at the Independence Library. The author of the beloved Little House books will be portrayed by an actress from Women in History to help visitors celebrate Laura Ingalls Wilder's 145th birthday. To learn more about this presentation, call the library at 216-447-0160 or read all about it on their website, www.cuyahoga-library.org.
About a year ago, he told us stories of folks he knew that were crazy with the papers to prove it in his first book. Now sports journalist Dan Coughlin is back with a second helping of behind-the-scenes sports stories, and he's happy to pass the nuts.
I recognize that lunatic up there.
Hopefully you do. Okay, a year ago, why so soon with another book?
Well, is it asking too much for somebody to save up another $15 over a year?
I don't think so.
Actually, many people complained about my first book. They said, how can you write a book about the great characters and eccentrics that you knew without people like Harry Leach and others in the book? And so I said, okay, to please you, I'll put out another book.
Had to be
right
another
now.
book.
Yes.
Okay, well, you mentioned Harry Leach.
Harry,
so
yes.
Tell us about him.
Oh, Harry. Harry was the spotter in the announcing booth for Gib Shanley on the Browns radio broadcast. And he started with Bill McColgan, a name out of the past, one of the Browns' early radio announcers. He's the extra set of eyes to point out who made this tackle and that. But Harry always had bloodshot eyes. Gib Shanley said that we kept him because he was good for morale. Not that he was such a great spotter. But Harry drank, and he had a couple of hobbies. One was playing gin, and the other was drinking. And we were on a long West Coast trip one time, and Harry had a continuous gin game going for several days in his hotel room on the coast. And on the flight back, Nate Wallach, the Browns PR man, asked Harry, what was your bar bill at the hotel? He said, I don't know what my bar bill was, but my ice bill was $300.
Well, okay, they were spotters, but how about the Browns players? Gene Hickerson and Dick Shafrath? You have some stories about them?
It broke my heart when Gene went into the Hall of Fame many years too late. He had Alzheimer's so bad he didn't know what was happening. And so the joy came off it a little bit. But in real life, Gene Hickerson was a delight. He was one of the fastest pulling guards of all time. He led Jim Brown and Leroy Kelly on the famous Brown sweep around the end. Gene was a classical music aficionado. He knew George Zell, the great conductor of the Cleveland Orchestra. But on the other hand, he was also good friends with Elvis Presley because they were both from Memphis. And Elvis was a degenerate Browns fan.
Really?
Gene would ship him game tapes every week of the Browns games, and Elvis would study these game tapes like a coach. And Gene would always tell us, "Yeah, I know Elvis Presley," and we'd scoff at him. "Come on, Gene." He said, "Call this number." So one night, Jim Mueller called the number. Elvis answered. "Yeah, I'm calling for Gene Hickerson." He said, "Let me talk to Gene."
Oh my goodness. How about Shafrath?
Shaft. Oh, no, that was an absolute lunatic. You may remember Shafrath from his days as a state senator. Oh, but he couldn't resist a challenge. And in the 60s, he was a tackle. But he was a jogger, one of the first players that we knew that was into this jogging thing. And so a Chevrolet dealer in Worcester challenged him, said, "I'll give you the use of a car if you run nonstop from Cleveland Stadium to your high school stadium in Worcester."
That's pretty far.
62 miles
Ooh.
over hard roads. He did it in June of 1970. He did it in June. When he finished that run, 18 hours overnight, from 7 o'clock Friday night till noon on Saturday. They had an ambulance waiting for him, IVs in his arm. His legs never recovered. Training camp started a month and a half later.
Couldn't do it.
And he started as the Browns' starting left tackle at mid-season. They had to replace him with Doug Deacon, another man of eccentric bents.
So is he the next one in the next book then?
Oh no, Deacon was a chapter in my first book.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Oh yes.
All right.
Yes.
Well, these are great stories. I wish we had more time, but we don't.
I wish we did. Hey, I'm just getting started. Don't go away. I'll be back next year.
All right. All right. So did these nuts give you a taste for more? There are several more servings in Dan's book. To get your copy, use the information that's coming up next. My thanks to Dan for joining us today.
To learn more, call Gray & Company Publishers at 800-708-2819 or log on to www.grayco.com. Next, choosing a caring caregiver. It's time to get up and go. An exercise minute on golden opportunities.
Hello, I'm Mike Carbon from Breakout Fitness, and today we're going to do a seated butterfly raise. We got our dumbbells, we're ready to go. You ready? Ready. All right, this exercise is done seated. We want to sit on the edge of the chair with our knees directly above our feet. What you're going to do is you're going to lean forward, resting your abdomen on your thighs. Great, let the dumbbells hang naturally and simply raise to your side, nice and slow. Perfect. Straight down, straight up, nice and slow. Once again, 3 or 4 sets, 10 to 15 repetitions will do it. 16-ounce cans do work as a 1-pound weight if you do not have dumbbells at home. And that's about it. Feel good?
Oh yeah, I got it now.
Great, there you go. All right, everybody, now it's your turn to get up and go.
For your copy of the exercise booklet, please send $1 for postage to Golden Opportunities, 23240 Chagrin Boulevard, Suite 450, Beechwood, Ohio, 44122.
Mom or dad needs some extra help, and you're doing your best to provide it, but with work and your own family, you're starting to realize you can't give them all that they need. What do you do at that point? Connie Hill Johnson has one possible answer. Connie is the owner and director of Visiting Angels in Cleveland. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Well, we're talking about in-home assistance. What are some of the signs that you can look for that help is needed?
Well, there are a variety of them. Many times we as the adult children will see things like falling, mom or dad's not eating properly, a lot of leftover food in the refrigerator, concern about their driving. They're missing their medications. That's a huge one, missing their medications. They perhaps have become more of an introvert. They're not as social as they've been in the past. So those are clear indicators that support in the home might be needed.
Okay, so if you notice that, does that mean it's time to hire a nurse?
Not necessarily. Nursing is generally received in the home at a physician's instruction, but a nurse is not needed for day-to-day activities. Perhaps a home health aide or a caregiver. If a nurse is needed, the physician can place an order for it.
Okay. Give us examples of some kind of care that can be provided at home.
Meal preparation. Perhaps someone needs help being fed. Hygiene assistance is huge. Most falls occur in the bathroom. So there could be assistance with bathing, grooming, dressing. Light housekeeping. Mom or dad can't push that vacuum cleaner anymore. A big one is med reminders. Huge medication reminders. The pills are out, they forget to take them. So someone could be there to remind them.
So you can do your best to get everything out, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's
If
being
they don't
taken.
take it,
That's right.
problems begin.
Okay, but now we're bringing somebody new into a parent's house. How do we know that they're safe, they're qualified, and they're the right person?
Well, and that's a big concern today and a big question for any adult child or family member. You've got to look for the right agency, the right company. You've got to do the appropriate background checks. You want to make sure the person is experienced with taking care of seniors. You want to get references.
Okay.
From the company or past clients so that you feel comfortable that the person coming in is trustworthy and has the skill set to do the job.
Are there any kind of seal of approval from an organization or anything that you can look for?
Well, we are fortunate with Visiting Angels. We are now working with an independent company called Home Care Pulse, and they literally survey clients and employees to determine satisfaction levels. So we're happy that we have one of their highest seals now as a home care company.
Okay.
And they do that on a monthly basis.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you so much. We're proud of that.
Yeah, so that's a good thing to look for. And when you're asking for references, what things are you asking those individuals?
Well, there are two ways of looking at it. You can get references on the company. You can also ask about the specific caregiver or the aide that's coming. You want to know, are they arriving on time? You want to know, does the company have backup if someone's sick? You
big
want to
problem.
know the skill set and the training of the aides. You want to know if they're bonded and insured. So those are some real key questions that a family member might want to ask.
Okay, and I assume you give references, you give other satisfied families so that they can give their viewpoint.
Most definitely, most definitely. Sometimes people will say, well, can I talk to someone who's where you've taken care of their mom? Can I talk to someone where you've taken care of both parents? So we try to match up those references with that potential client.
And that would be important because it's probably different.
It is very different, taking care of a dad versus taking care of a mom, taking care of someone with Alzheimer's versus just being a companion.
Yeah. So how much does it cost to have somebody come in and help?
Well, the prices range in the community. On the low side, you're going to find anywhere between $17, $18 an hour. On the high side, $23, $24. That's pretty much the going range in the community.
Is there a minimum number of hours or anything?
Typically with Visiting Angels, our minimum is 4, although we are able to accommodate shorter hours.
Okay. Can insurance cover it?
Only if the family member has long-term care insurance. The generation now probably wasn't thinking years ago of buying a long-term care insurance policy.
So, not at all.
Hopefully you and I will have ours, Lori, when we get
Yes.
older. But generally, a long-term care insurance policy will cover in-home care.
Okay, these are great tips and great information for us here today. So if you're trying to handle caring for your family and yourself, but you still want to make sure mom and dad are cared for in their home, assistance that is provided in the home may be the answer. To find out more, call the number that's coming up next. My thanks to Connie for joining us here today.
To find out more, call Visiting Angels at 216-231-6400 or visit www.visitingangels.com/Cleveland. Next, fight back against wrongful insurance and Medicare denials.
We're Gateway Title, keeping life simple. We can make it simple. We've got everything you need. See how easy selling your home can be. We're Gateway Title. We're keeping life simple.
Did you miss a phone number or website? Then here's your second chance because we're going to list all of that information again. And then I'll be back to tell you the details on how to fight Medicare denials. loved one is ready to leave the hospital and some rehabilitation is needed, Medicare generally should cover the costs to get you back on your feet. But more and more, we're hearing about wrongful denials of coverage. Here to explain this dangerous new trend is my partner, Mike Solomon.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Hi, I wasn't sure who you were.
Okay.
So tell me what's going on these days.
Well, let me give you a real life example of what happened. A client came into our office. His mother had had a stroke, and she was doing fine. She was recovering. She had to go to a nursing home facility to rehabilitate. And before she was fully recovered, the Medicare Advantage insurer gave them a letter and said, she has to, her coverage stops. So her choice is to leave the nursing home or pay $400 a day to stay in the nursing home for further rehabilitation. The family couldn't afford that.
Well, what did they do?
Well, the son filed an appeal, and after hours and hours of working on that, weeks and weeks of worrying about it, he eventually won the appeal and his coverage was granted, so they paid the old coverage.
Well, that sounds good.
Well, it was, but shortly after he got the letter approving the past coverage, they denied the mom's coverage going forward again. And what he's worried about, he's going to start the whole process again, but he's worried that they're just going to keep doing this over and over until he finally gives up.
What do you do in a case like that?
Well, one thing, if you get a denial, file an appeal. Many times the appeals, you're granted, they change their mind and grant you coverage. Now, if it happens over and over again, if they start fooling around with you and just constantly rejecting you, then you might have to take other steps.
Okay, but fight it and you might win. All right. Has the problem gotten worse over time?
It has. In the older days, the Medicare also just made mistakes and had wrongful denials. But now it's taken over by private industry. They're more focused on the bottom line to save money, increase profits. So there are more wrongful discharges happening all the time.
Okay, so they're really watching the dollars and trying to not. If you don't fight, you'll lose.
Right. So make sure you defend your rights, and if you have to, you may have to hire an attorney to help you out.
Okay, well, those are good tips for us today here. So, dealing with Medicare and insurance is never easy. But don't just take no for an answer if you think you're being treated unfairly. My thanks to Mike, I think his name is, for his insightful advice.
Okay, good.
Call Budish, Solomon, Steiner, and Peck at 1-888-236-5173 for more information or to schedule a speaker for your organization. Or log on to www.budishandsolomon.com. Would you like to join our kitchen conversation? All you have to do is call toll-free 1-877-765-1543 and leave us your question, name, and phone number. Or log on to www.golden.tv for all the latest information and show updates.